we're here right now to make sure Terry McAuliffe is elected the next governor of the great state and the Commonwealth of Virginia, and we will not be distracted. We will not be dissuaded. We will not be deterred. This election is too important.
All eyes on Virginia as Democrats try to keep it blue. Vice President Kamala Harris campaigned tonight for Terry McAuliffe for governor. Now, in the state that used to be the capital of the Confederacy, Democrats are betting on the political power of people of color. Stacey Abrams, Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, and now Vice President Harris, all black women, headlined events for McAuliffe in Prince William County. It's the most diverse county in Virginia, and President Obama is expected this weekend. But can these national voices bring out enough Virginians for McAuliffe? New polling shows that Republican nominee Glenn Youngkin and McAuliffe are deadlocked in the race, each with around 46% of the vote. Well, joining me now to discuss is Kadia Tubman. She's a senior editor for Insider. Kadia, Virginia has a bit of a checkered history with black voters. Just 2 years ago, the current Democratic governor, Ralph Northam, had a blackface scandal. It should have ended his career. It would have in any liberal state. So what is his remaining in office? Tell us about the approach of black voters in Virginia.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on tonight. Right now, what we're watching happen in Virginia is a stronghold amongst Democrats, really. What they're honing in on is turnout. And so, as you pointed out, the polls are getting tighter and tighter and becoming closer. And with that, what they're really focusing on is who's going to come out to the polls. And right now, as we could see from the campaigning trail that we've seen in the past day, if not the past few weeks, they are really depending on black voters to come out and turn out for this election, because all eyes are on it, especially for Democrats, considering that this could be a prelude or not to a disaster for congressional candidates next year. Right now, we're seeing in Virginia that black voters and their turnout is going to be very key for Democrats if they're likely to actually win the state and keep it blue.
And what do black voters need to hear from someone like Terry McAuliffe, who by all accounts is more of a moderate when it comes to policy issues?
So that's getting a little tough, actually, because right now what we're seeing is that a lot of the policies being discussed in this race are not actually local policies. And when it comes to what black voters need, those aren't actually at the forefront. We're hearing national political debates seeping down into the state, even down to school boards. And so that's right now around banning teaching critical race theory in schools, or arguing about mask or vaccine mandates, or even abortion rights has been coming up more so in these races. If black voters are going to be turning out for this election, especially for Democrats, they're definitely going to hone in on the issues that are affecting them, whether that's healthcare, childcare, jobs. It's going to be everything, education, and what it means for their livelihood. That's not just what's going on in the national political debate scene, but what's really affecting them at home. However, that is not what's happening. And a large part of that is because Virginia, a lot of eyes are on Virginia, as we've already pointed out. And because of that, a lot of the outside politics are clouding these local policies that people care about, and they're getting buried. And so right now, what Democrats can do is really hone in on the fact that whatever local Virginians, especially those of color, especially those black voters, are worried about is what needs to be pushed to the forefront in the next couple of weeks.
And how does a Democrat like McAuliffe thread that needle, though, in a state that used to be the former capital of the Confederacy, right? If a black community is concerned about reforming a local police department, talking about that issue is exactly the thing that will turn out the opposition. So how does how does a Democrat navigate that world?
Right now, what we're seeing is really focusing on against Trump, and then therefore against the policies that he would stand for. So if it is police reform, or if it is criminal justice, or if it is economic equality or even equity, those issues are being kind of clumped right now into, we are the antithesis of Trump, and therefore Youngkin is the next Trump that would be taking over in Virginia. And in the only way to go against any of those policies or any of those issues that you care about as a Black voter is to vote against someone who would be representative of Trump. However, that's not so easy, because right now we're seeing that Youngkin is very much balancing a thin line that he's trying to challenge between being someone who's endorsed by Trump, but also not supporting him outwardly. And this is going to be faced by many Republican candidates, but especially right now as we look at Virginia, and probably beyond that, actually, Democrats are honing in on everyone doesn't want Trump or another Trump in their state. And so we are the ones to deliver you on the opposite of everything he stands for. However, if you have someone like Youngkin who isn't actually out there vocally saying that he supports Trump and his policies, or even the way he looks at politics, then that gets a little iffy. And that's really how we're seeing McAuliffe really balance this line. It's not really direct going at certain progressive policies such as police reform, but it is going after and saying we're not Trump, we are fully Democrats, and we are able to support the policies and the issues that Black voters care about because they might be against Trump and what he stood against when it came to those communities. It's a very thin line being played. It's kind of like a backdoor way into the issue.
Yeah. It's the idea of running the negative campaign, right, as opposed to the positive, proactive one, and trying to develop a connection between your opposition and the big boogeyman, which in this case is Trump. Real quick, in the last minute we have left together, McAuliffe beat out several Black women in the primary to be the Democratic nominee. Is that part of why all of these heavy hitters, Black women, are coming into the state to help shore up any bad feelings that may be left?
That could likely be a part of it, but also polling has shown that Youngkin is actually polling highly amongst women in Virginia. And so bringing in those heavy hitters like Stacey Abrams, like Vice President Harris, is a very big deal. And it's going to be pushing forward into getting the groups of people that may not be completely sold yet, and especially on Black women who have held down the Democratic Party for such a long time. To see them ousted in that way when it came to this race it's a very big deal. And to have these voices come in and say, we still see you and you're still represented in the Democratic Party and your vote is still going to be galvanizing us forward, that's why they're here and that's why they're campaigning on his behalf.
Let's not forget, 52% of white women did vote for Donald Trump. So this is going to be the election, or one of the elections, where we find out if that still holds true. Kadia Tubman, thank you so much for joining me tonight.